You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. So I'm home on Sunday and doing more in Scone, and someone jumps in the comments and say, hey, LSU just got another commitment. And my goodness, this is just so much fun and almost uncanny, the role that LSU is on recruiting right now. On Sunday, the LSU Tigers got a commitment from the number one interior offensive line prospect in the country for 2025, Tyler Miller. Tyler Miller is, just to give you the little bit of a thumbnail backstory on him, he's 6'6", 318 pounds. He's out of Laurel, Mississippi, and picked LSU over Ole Miss and Mississippi State. You're talking about a guy who is, according to On3, the number one interior offensive line prospect in the country for 2025, and the number 32 overall prospect in the country for 2025 per On3. If you look at the composite, he's the number 3 interior offensive line and the number 71 prospect, but On3 has him as the best interior offensive lineman in the country. And by the way, if Brad Davis is recruiting him and thinks he's good, if Brian Kelly co-signs on an offensive lineman, you already know my feelings on this, I'm all on board. Because I'll say it again, there are 2 positions at which Brian Kelly has recruited and developed and pumped talent into the NFL greater than any other position on the field. It's tight end and offensive line, and he has continued that conveyor belt of talent while at LSU. It has been a sight to behold, the way that LSU has recruited offensive linemen. At this point, you start to wonder, how high can this recruiting class climb? How high can this rating be? Remember, there's ranking and then there's rating. Ranking is where you are relative to the rest of the recruiting classes in that given year. The rating could look at any year. How many top-tier prospects do you have that give you a class score, a rating? And this class rating right now is at 97.01 with 11 commitments for LSU in the class of 2025. You know they've got the number 1 prospect in the country in Bryce Underwood, who happens to be the number 1 quarterback as well. The number 1 receiver in the country in DeCorian Moore. The number 1 running back in the country in Harlem Berry. Now the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country as well, with Tyler Miller picking the LSU Tigers. A couple of observations from this. Number 1, and I'll say it every time LSU gets an offensive lineman to commit, this is like a Brad Davis appreciation moment. Brad Davis, before he came to LSU, was at Florida, then Missouri, then Arkansas. He was bouncing around the SEC, and he came home. And not only did he come home, he came home when things weren't great. When Ed Ogeron got fired, he was the interim head coach for the bowl game. He was the only member of the staff retained when Brian Kelly got hired. And listen to the quotes from Tyler Miller, the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country, who just committed to LSU. Listen to the quotes as to why he picked LSU. He said, quote, "Really, when I went up to LSU, the minute I went through the door, Brad Davis, Dr. Arnold, and others, they all felt like I was at home talking to people I've known for years." He went on to say, and I quote, "I feel like I'm the closest to Coach Brad. That's a person I give a lot of respect to, and his hustle and his grind is amazing. My relationship with the coaching staff is family, and their plan for me is having a good chance of making an impact as soon as I step on campus, but I have to work every day. Nothing's going to be given to me." Twice he mentioned Brad Davis. Joe Sloan tweeted his appreciation on Sunday to Brad Davis. The bottom line is, Brad Davis not only is an amazing offensive line coach, as we have continued to see his ability to develop. And some of y'all, I don't need to name your names, and some of y'all may run to Twitter to go delete your posts, but some of y'all at the start of 2022 were crapping on Brad Davis. And I tried to tell you. Man, you didn't even have a center. You had a guard playing center in the opener. You had 2 freshman offensive tackles. Some of y'all didn't like to hear it. By the end of that year, LSU had one of the best offensive lines in the SEC. Last year, they had one of the best offensive lines in the country, and they ain't slowing down. Look at what they have done. From Emory Jones and Will Campbell to Lance Hurd and DJ Chester. I know Lance Hurd's gone now. Cohen Eccles in this year's class, another 5-star. Now you've got Miller and Harper committed for 2025, and they're not even relying on Louisiana. Chester's from Georgia, Eccles from Texas, Miller's from Mississippi. You're staying in your footprint, your geographic footprint in the Southeast, but you're getting great offensive linemen from all over. It's a Pied Piper effect. And once you show you can develop linemen and get them to the league, and wait until next year when both Will Campbell and Emory Jones are first-round picks, how much easier still it's going to be to get great offensive linemen on board. Now, 2025 is going to be interesting because you're losing 4 starters. Campbell, Jones, Dellinger, Frazier are all going to be gone for 2025. So do the young offensive linemen on this year's team develop, or do they dip into the portal? Another question for another day, and we'll have that question in another 8 months from now. But, maybe 10 months from now. But you'll get there. The bottom line is, I don't know that I've ever, as long as I've cheered for, loved, watched, covered LSU, I've felt this great about the offensive line and its continued ability to develop as I do right now with Brad Davis as that position coach and Brian Kelly as the head coach. It's kind of remarkable what they've been able to do. Now, I will tell you one thing. If you want to look at one other thing to the flip side of this signing class, of this recruiting class, the commitments currently, yes, it is impressive. You are the top-ranked class in the country for 2025, and you got an overall score of 97.01. And yes, you've got the number 1 quarterback in the country, the number 1 receiver in the country, the number 1 running back in the country, the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country. What do all of those things that I just mentioned have in common? They're all offensive players. Of your 11 commits, 8 of the 11 are offensive players. You've only got 3 defensive commits right now for the class of 2025. And you all watched the team a year ago like I did. The offense was awesome. Literally the best offense in the country. The defense stunk. You got to get better on defense. It's a long way to go between now and the December signing period. And yes, you can utilize the portal and all that sort of stuff. I get it. This class is amazing, what they're doing in 2025. And just with the in-state prospects for 2026, there's reason to think that's going to get fixed in a hurry. But it is worth noting, while you are crushing it on the offensive side, and yes, you've got Jabari Antoine and Keelan Moses committed for 2025. Yes, you need more numbers and more depth on the defensive side as you round out. Long way to go. But that's the other thing worth watching. And hopefully all the offensive talent continues to be a Pied Piper effect for the defensive side as well. But number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country, Tyler Miller out of Mississippi State. He shuns Ole Miss and Mississippi State and is committed to LSU for the class of 2025. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.